Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Our topic today is winning more jobs with Sage Estimating Suite. Our subject matter expert is Darren Pierce from Sage Software. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is muted for a clean listening experience. If you have questions, please type them into the question box, and we will be happy to address them at the end of the session. For the best visual experience, please maximize your screen so you can see everything in full detail. This presentation is being recorded, and a copy will be emailed out to everyone later on today. I will now turn it over to you, Darren.
All right, thank you, Kristen, and good morning, everybody. Hope your Thursday is starting off great. I do want to thank you for taking time out of your day for joining our presentation and looking at the best-in-class Sage Estimating Suite. Now, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff today, and what I always like to do is travel through the solutions and give you the integration points that you can take advantage of that can streamline your business workflows, create efficiency, and maximize that efficiency, and also cut down on that double entry of information that we're looking at. So we're going to be taking a look at the entire estimating suite. And with that being said, you know, it's one of those things that as a company here at Sage, we want to give you kind of a soup to nuts, stem to stern solution for every process within your organization. So as you can see, as you look at the circle there, we're covering from pre-construction to post-construction and giving you the solutions that you need every step of the way. But of course, today what we're going to be focusing on is the pre-construction and taking a look at the estimating solution. Now, first of all, when I pop this up, and we'll be digging into the application itself, but to give you an idea, of course, what's it look like to us, an Excel spreadsheet? Most of our customers come from Excel. They transition from Excel to our solution. We want to give you familiar territory, familiar ground that you'll be working with. Matter of fact, JB Knowledge, as far as the industry is concerned, roughly about 23% of the companies out there are working with our estimating solution. Now that next one in line right there, other, that's Excel. So there's that transition to the best solution that is available in the industry, and that's us. So when we look at this, we want to give you solutions for every step of the way. And when we look at that, of course, digital takeoff is a part of that process. And being with Sage, as long as I've been with Sage, Timberline back in the day, worked with the digitizer boards, and thank goodness we've evolved since then into this digital takeoff functionality that has streamlined the process. And I will be touching on some things within digital takeoff that are new to the product that let's go ahead and get to the next step there. That are new to the product and will create even more efficiency if you're used to a digital takeoff solution. And we'll jump into that right after we get done with the PowerPoint. But it's not just about digital takeoff, really. Matter of fact, if I could go back in the day, we used to have what we call CAD Integrator. Well, we brought that into the Windows environment. That was DOS. And now we're working, of course, with Navisworks, Autodesk. 90% of the companies out there that do any type of CAD creation and working with architects, engineers, of course, use the Revit solution, right? But of course, we also integrate with Assemble. But as you can see with the workflow here, we're giving you a common denominator of eTakeoff to generate your estimates. So with that, we're going directly from 2D and 3D and giving you the opportunity to work with those. And a lot of companies are transitioning to working with BIM and modeling, and we want to give you a solution that's going to accommodate that process. Next in line is a solution that has just been introduced within the last 6-8 months, our Buyout solution within our SQL environment, giving you the opportunity to send out requests for quotes, do that analytic as far as pricing is concerned, comparing side by side your subs, your vendors, and giving you the capability, let's take a look at the workflow, to utilize the estimating. Of course, we have the Buyout solution right there. We go through the process of sending out those requests for quotes and get the opportunity to generate those purchase orders, the subcontracts, overall, of course, called commitments, right? And able to send that into Sage 100 and Sage 300. So as we walk through this, when you think about the back office and the integration that we have there, I'll touch on those points, and I will be working with the 300 product, but we also work with Sage 100. So if you're utilizing that system today in the back office, then we're going to give you those integration points. So looking at that, the full wheel of solutions that we have here, that's not the official name, the full wheel, but we'll go with that. And we'll jump into the demonstration right here. And as Krista mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to jot them down, write them in, and then we can answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So let's begin with Digital Takeoff. And when we look at Digital Takeoff, this is eTakeoff, fully integrated with our estimating application. And one of the things that is important about the solution, multi-user environment. So if you have multiple individuals within your department that want to partner up on doing some takeoff, we can all access this plan set, this plan page at the same time. We also read PDFs in their native format, and we're going to take advantage of that because there's two types of PDFs out there, raster and vector. We're going to give you the capability to work with those vector files. Up here we have the trace library that you can utilize, and basically it's your digital markers when you go through the process of quantifying those items on the plans. Well, at this point, we want to give you the flexibility, the versatility to use as many of those monitors as you have. As a matter of fact, going back to the day, I've worked with some individuals that have 3 to 4 monitors. One guy had 40-inch monitors for 4 of them. That's surround visual. So with that, we want to give you the opportunity to drill in, drill out, have these multiple windows that you can move over to those monitors so you can see the scope, the specifications, and be able to see that while you're doing your takeoff. As many of these windows as you want. Give you the capability to navigate with the system very quickly. So when I look at this page here, there's an important thing about this page that I want to talk about, which is a differentiator of the solution. Multiple scales per page. Everything within this blue border is its own scale. So as many scales as you want per page, especially when you get into doing takeoff from those detailed plan pages. Now, I want to give you the opportunity to navigate around, or at least the solution does. So when we look at those particular things, we're drilling in on that thing right there really quickly. Let's transition this to the takeoff pane. So now from the window, what I've done is I've navigated to this in my primary takeoff pane here. And another thing that is, of course, predominant. Construction is synonymous with change. Revisions come in the door, change orders, all of those things that we work with. Well, we want to give you the opportunity to compare drawings side by side or against one another. So let's overlay a new drawing, a revision, over the top of this. And now you can see we've got the opportunity to do that right there. Well, unlike other solutions that you may have to move these takeoffs around, all we have to do is go through the process of changing this takeoff to accommodate that revision that we have in there and say, okay. So we've just done that takeoff. Now I'm going to name this something, and we'll see the effects of this downstream, because what we want to be able to do for you is give you the opportunity to break that estimate up by 16, 48 division, unit format, whatever it may be. But maybe a customer wants to look at it by bid item, by floor, by room, by building. However you want to break that up, we're going to give you the opportunity to do that using WBS codes. So with that being said, let's do some takeoff now. What you'll notice, and for those of you that may have seen a demo, maybe not, of the digital takeoff solution I'm looking at is eTakeoff. We have a new functionality. It's called Snap. And what this is going to do is increase your efficiency and your accuracy. So let's give you kind of an example of what I'm talking about right there. So when you look at the cursor that I've got going and moving around at this point, it's got dashed lines. That means it's in search mode. So search mode, it's looking for points that it can find and do our takeoff. And as you can see, when I go through this, it's finding those points along the way and adhering to those and giving me the opportunity to snap right to them. If I make a mistake, I can just backspace and boom. I've just done that takeoff, and you'll notice how accurate that is right there. That's giving you the capability to be very accurate with your takeoffs, but also increase your speed. So let's take it a little bit further. Maybe I need to remove this area right here from this takeoff. Well, I hit my G key, snap, done. So you'll notice there's curves right here, and this automatically adhered to that line going through the process. So in this process, we're going to, of course, give you that efficiency that you're going to be able to work with right there. Let's use some naming conventions for this, and let's call this pool area. And let's do a takeoff of the pool. And, you know, it typically would be like shotcrete or gunite or something to that effect. We'll use concrete in this situation, double click. We're going to fill in that area, and we're going to see a warning shot here. So this is a basic takeoff with, if you're like a unit price contractor, square foot, linear foot, that's all we need. Well, we give you that capability, of course, but we're going to give you more flexibility to adhere to what we do within our estimating system. And this warning shot tells me I have additional information to complete. So in this case right here, I'll go with 4 inches of depth. We have the capability, if you're using estimating today, any of those variable questions that you're used to within your assemblies, your items, we're going to give you the capability to answer that scope when you do your takeoff. My E goes away. Let's do a few more examples and give you kind of an idea of the I hate to use cool, but it is cool what the solution can do for you. So if I look over here, I want to do a takeoff a wall, snap to the wall, done. I'll enter the information for that wall. And again, you may do type A, type B types of walls where you don't have to enter in the additional information, but if you do get into the details, we're going to give you the opportunity to do that, answering those questions and variables along the way. So some other cool things, and I'll go over here to my foundation, and I'll say, well, I want to do a takeoff of this foundation right here. Well, with the polyline, snap, it's going to give me the capability to snap to all of those lines, this line around the foundation right there. As you can tell, we're going to enter in more information for this. So we'll say 2 feet, and we'll say 2 right there. One more, and then I'll jump out of this. I want to give you a full feel for what you can do here. So as you're looking with this system and how it can benefit you, is maybe we're going to take off the roofing on this. All I have to do is snap to those lines. Done. So very quick, very easy to do. We'll go ahead and delete that guy. Got a lot to show, so we're not going to focus too much of our attention on this, but did want to give you a good feel for how productive your life would be using this product right here. So with that being said, I've got one more thing to do here. I'm going to name this wall and demo. And one other thing that I want to draw your attention to is right here, down here, we have things that are labeling with work breakdown structure. Well, I've got this one labeled as an alternate, so we'll see the effects of that later on. Well, when you get to the point where you want to generate an estimate now, we have a solution called Bridge that's going to give you the capability to collect all of the takeoffs that are on the plan pages over here. So now it's going to automatically go out and find those for you, collect that information, that detail, and bring it in here so that you can review it if you want. We can also break it out in a manner that makes sense. As you can see, I had Bob work with me on this takeoff right there, and he's done a little bit for me. But also notice the naming conventions that we have here. We have pool area right here. And I should have named that just pool, but yeah, we'll go with it. Wall and demo. Well, in the end, what we want to do is give you the opportunity to generate all of that to the estimate. Very quickly, very easily, we can go to that. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is I'd already sent over the takeoff that I made a change to. So when you look at that takeoff, I made a change to that carpet in that area right there. Well, it's giving me an indicator that says that takeoff was changed. So now for that carpet area that we looked at, it went from 86 to 84. So the solution is going to do a comparative analysis for you and tell you when things have changed and give you the capability to update that to the estimate. So with that being said, I'll call it spec change and send it to the estimate. Now we can jump over into the estimating system and take a look at that takeoff right there. These have been generated from the digital takeoff, and we'll take a look at that. We can expand these, see all the details. Now for your company, you may not have a lot of labor, but maybe you're buying the materials, or we're looking at working with the subcontracts. Well, in this case right here, what I want to do is I want to get my concrete contractor in here, and I'm going to drop that down, and we'll take advantage of this in a moment. And we'll fill down. So with our solution, what we want to do is give you the opportunity to visualize, see the information in a manner that makes sense to you. So we have multiple layouts that give you the opportunity to switch the details that fit your need at the time you need it. So if we want to be able to see just the total with the markups and the grand total and the time change, when did this hit the estimate, we can do that. If we want to get into maybe sub-bid grid, maybe just our subcontractors, we want to see that information where we have that detail where we can compare, if we want, multiple subcontractors against one another within the spreadsheet here. We can do that as well. But we also may want to see how this flows into our back office. Here's our cost code structure. So the integration, of course, that we're going to see and have this flow into the back office, setting up that budget. So we don't have to do all that double entry of that information right there. Well, let's go down to the presentation that I've got there. Now, what was the benefit of those naming descriptions or what I did there? Well, first of all, let's go to our tabs down here, and you'll notice there's our spec change. There's the change that happened to the carpeting. We can open that up and we can review that assembly if we need to and see the details. Here's the original, here's the reversal, and here's the new pass that's reflected on the estimate with the naming convention right there. Or we may want to break this out by the locations that we created during takeoff. So in the pool area right there, we've got that. Wall and demo, we have that. So we have all of these things divided up in a manner that makes sense to us. Or if we look at bid item, we've broken it out by bid item. Or what we can do is we can come over here and look at base bid. Now, one of the things that we've introduced not too long ago was the capability for you to see this detail alternate versus base bid. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to very quickly import some statuses so that you can see how we work with those alternates. I'm going to close that out, say okay. And now we've got the summary of those alternates. And let's say that the base bid, of course, is approved, but our alternates here, well, let's say it was rejected. Well, we can hide that, or we can show it on the estimate. You can see it's marked off right there and some of those items right there. So give you a very formalized way to manage those alternates and be able to work with those. So with that, it is a WBS code that we're taking advantage of to break this estimate apart. Well, let's turn those off. Let's go ahead and say, it's approved. Okay. Now what we can look at last but not least is you'll notice this blue character that's sitting up here, or caret. Let's not call it a character. Let's call it a isosceles triangle at the upper left-hand corner of the plans here, or the estimate. Well, that is a signal to you as an estimator that came from the digital takeoff. So if I went to location right here and I said, give me the capability to jump out during review, I want to go over and look at that exact takeoff. So bi-directional integration with the digital takeoff solution. So getting you away from the manual movement, and then once you get into that cost estimate, you know exactly where to go to find the origin of that takeoff. Where did that come from? So we're going to give you that capability to work with that and make that happen for you. So let's jump back over into the estimate, minimize this. And one last thing, integration is huge. Let's go ahead and generate this into the accounting system. Well, first of all, we got to do some fun things here. We'll go into our info, and this is what the workflow would be like for an estimator. Is I'd go in, we've been awarded the job, there's the accordant presentation. We'll send this into accounting system. We're going to walk you through a wizard that's going to step you through 4 steps and direct on, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to round accumulated item quantities? Do you want to allocate those add-ons? Allocate add-ons is basically taking those markups and applying them to the estimate within the budget or the cost code structure. If we didn't do that, those markups can be their own line item as well. Up to you, flexibility that we have there. Within the 300 world, we can also use the extras, a job within a job. Customer comes and says, hey, I've got the original contract, original budget, but I want a pool, I want an outbuilding worthy of tracking on its own. We can map to that. And then last but not least, we'll just send this into the accounting system. There you go. So we've got 80,000 that went into that budget right there. And I always like to finish the process. So when you look at this, we're going to post, as you probably most of you are used to. And I can go to the bottom here and I can select which one that I want to send into. Let's post this, call it good. Yeah. Now, as it's going through that process, we can jump into our estimate spreadsheet here, take a look, and there's the breakdown of what we sent. Maybe maybe it's the line items that you're used to seeing. Maybe it's not. Maybe you have about 400 of these line items. But the key to that is this, is giving you the opportunity to have that detail flow into the accounting system from the estimate and not have to enter this information. Let's get you away from all of that double entry. So for me, with my 30-word per minute capability, it does take me a lot of time to get that information in there. So let's go back to the estimate. Well, now let's say that we're going to go through the process of buying out this job. I'm going to create this. I'm going to call this accordant. And as I mentioned, this is a solution that we just released 6 to 8 months ago. And I'll tell you, as far as the development is going, we're on the fast track to get this thing up to speed and above and beyond. Matter of fact, we're already above and beyond where we were in the pervasive days. But let's import this. With this solution, we can buy out any category that you're looking at: labor, material, subcontract, equipment, and other. Used to be in the old days, I call it the old days because I go way back, we could only do subcontract and material. So we're definitely increasing the functionality as we go along. I'm going to go ahead and pick off my accordant estimate. It fills in with the information. We can map 2 extras if we want. Let's import it in. You can import in as many jobs as you want. And now when we get into the process of looking at this information we brought in from the estimate, well, of course, we can combine items, so we have the capability to do that. But I think the thing that we look at first and foremost here is you'll notice that there is some white backing behind these items, but not these items here. Well, the yellow items, or the yellow backing behind those items, is indicating those need your attention. We need to buy those out. We're putting automation in place that allows you to get away from that step and take it to the next step that we're working with up here on the solution. So we'll get into more about that, but we have the capability to, of course, filter the details. So we're only seeing those ones that we need to act on. We can show the details all of that underlying detail. If we need to have that available, we can see that information. Lots of things that we can do to filter the details. And it's not just about the way that we're looking at the information in this way, but you may buy out your job in a different manner. So if you remember those naming conventions, here's the pool area. Now, not that you would ever do this, you may, but if I wanted to use those WBS codes in a manner that works for me, like, well, I use those naming conventions. Here's the pool area, here's the wall and demo. Not that you do it that way, but I wanted to show you the power of what we can do originating from the digital takeoff. All of that flows downstream for us. So pretty powerful stuff. But let's go back to the process here, and let's go ahead and look at wood and plastics. This is a filtering system that we can use here, and we'll call this framing. So now I've assigned these to a quote group. We're ready to go to the next step. So of course, this is demonstration. We're just doing one at a time to go through the workflow. But of course, you would have material quotes, sub quotes, all of these good things would be filled out here for you. But we'll take you through the process. At this point, I want to include vendors. We're using the address book as you'd expect from the Sage estimating solution. I can say, well, we've got framing. I'll select those and we're good to go. We've lined them up. Next thing we need to do is we need to send out a request for quote. Now we're taking this to the point where we're able to send this out via email or still fax. Fax is still happening out there. Some of our customers still have faxing as a methodology that they're utilizing. Now what we can do is, of course, add any documentation on there and send it out the door. So as it goes through the process of emailing this, it's going to date stamp what we're looking at and go through the process. Now, as we look at that, we're going to gather that information, that detail. We've introduced one thing. I'm not going to go through this, but if you want to see the demonstration of it, we can actually import pricing from an Excel spreadsheet now. So that vendor sends back their pricing. That subcontractor sends back their pricing. We click a button and we can have that pricing updated within the system. Now, let's take another look at something else here. The automation that I was talking about, where we set up United in the estimate. Well, with that happening, it took it to the next step. Here's United Concrete, Unified Concrete, and Morrison Concrete and Columbia Concrete. Where we have pricing that is applicable to those items, we don't have to fill that information in. We have a full database of those vendor prices right here. So A1 Electric, Adams Fuel, all of that detail we have available to us if we need it. Well, with that being said, that's how we're taking advantage of that pricing and applying it where it is applicable. Well, in this case right here, I'm going to select this quote. I'm going to take it to the next step. Again, when you think about this, you'd be doing, of course, 10s, 20s, 30, 100 of these at one time. I'm just doing one at this point. But now with that being said, I want to go ahead and create the commitment. We have the opportunity to do that within the system here. So I have the documents that we can create. Any of you on the presentation today, if you use the old buyout, the pervasive buyout, you didn't have the capability to modify the forms like the request for quote. Well, you did a little bit, or the purchase order, commitment, those things. With this solution, we use Crystal, and you can build it in any way, shape, or form that you want. But if we're already working with the accounting system, I'm just going to go ahead and send this into 300. Again, if you're utilizing 100 today, we give you that same capability. So if I'm going to close the loop on this process here, if I jump over into job cost, I can go into tasks, I can go into commitments. And again, it is giving you the opportunity to get away from all of that manual entry of data. Now I can open this up, and this is the detail that's flowing into the accounting system. And I'll reiterate, again, Sage 100, same thing, same workflow. We write this detail into the Sage 100 and the Sage 300 products. So with that being said, we can jump over here. Again, if you wanted to create the documents from here, you most definitely could. But at any given time, what we want to do is offer you an opportunity at a high level to see where are we at buying out this job. What have we sent out at this point? What do we need to assign, and where are we at? So we're going to give you a high level look, a visual look of what we completed thus far and what we need to do from here. Now it does get into details and the categorical breakout, and it also gives you a little green bar here that says, hey, we're about 40% done with this this guy. Well, actually a little bit more than that, but it gives you that visual indicator right there as well. So that's the buyout solution. And when we take a look at that, now let's jump into a couple different methodologies of doing takeoff. Well, let's say just one methodology, actually. I'm going to close some of this. If you're starting to, and I say starting to, I mean, BIM has been a conversation for a long time. And we've been talking about BIM for the last 20 years, really, to tell you the truth. And within the last 3 to 4 years, what we've done is we've created an integration with Navisworks and Assemble. Navisworks has 2 products, Simulate and Manage. Assemble, of course, has one product, got bought out by Autodesk, and we're working with them on an integration even further than what we've got with Assemble at this point. But to get into the details here, you receive this file, this Revit file, and what we want to do is give you the opportunity to take advantage of the detail underlying that object. So objects have attributes, or those attributes are called properties within the system. So this detail that we're seeing right here, we want to take advantage of that, give you the opportunity to take advantage of that, and generate an estimate based upon what we see on this model here. Well, with that being said, I'll go ahead and close this out. You'll notice I jumped from this tab right here called eTakeoff. Well, let's start up the bridge. Now with the bridge, what you're looking at, same bridge, digital takeoff, 2D, now 3D as well. We want to have the system go out and find all those basic walls for us and generate them to the estimate. Well, we can most definitely do that. We can say, okay, let's take all 68 of those assignments right there and submit them to the estimate. So imagine when you're working with a Revit file and receiving that, rather than going through and of course you're looking at clash detection, all that fun stuff that we look at, and that would be the managed product, by the way, if you aren't working with them. But now we're going to give you the opportunity to have a solution that will generate an estimate based upon that. Now let's take a look at something right here. If we hide this information, this shows us everything that's been sent to the estimating product just by hiding those. When you're done with this takeoff, if you do every element, every division within this, you're going to have the capability to see, well, it'll basically show you the ground, right, when you're done. So this hide option will hide everything that's been sent to the estimate. Well, as we know, and I mentioned this earlier, construction is synonymous with change. This could be 50% complete, this could be 75% complete, so on and so forth. Well, with that being said, we want to give you the opportunity to compare the next rendering of this model with the original one. So the system is going to do those analytics for you. Just like in the 2D where I made the change and the system analyzed and gave you the difference in those takeoffs and will give you the opportunity to review that detail. Well, in this guy right here, we're going to give you the same functionality. So now if we move over into the review mode here, it's going to tell us what's changed. So it's going to highlight those and tell me what's changed. Well, with that being said, I want to update the estimate with spec change if we need to. Okay, that's just a note that you can apply so that it identifies, tags those takeoffs that we've done so that we can separate them out if we needed to. So with that being said, now what I can do is I can go over into, let's go ahead and jump out of that. Let's do this one more time. And now it's going to give us all of that detail within the estimate that we're working with there as well. So with that being said, we're going to give you the opportunity to work with 2D and 3D. So I won't go into more of that. If you're interested in getting more detailed takeoff of that, we're going to give you the opportunity. Just give us a call and we can walk through those steps. Last thing I want to touch on is the multiple different methods of takeoff within the application itself. And really it's just one more that I'll open up here. And it's called models. Now, for those of you that are focused on specific types of projects, and well, it could be more open than that, but when we look at this, if you have a type of project that you're used to working with, and we can build out a model that looks at that project, and based upon your historical pricing and your assumptions, we can build an estimate in minutes, seconds, really, to tell you the truth. Another story that goes along with this is, of course, you get that situation where a customer will come in and say, can you give me an idea of what this is going to cost? Here's the footprint. It's on a bar napkin. There's very little detail. And, you know, building it from scratch in a conceptual type of takeoff takes weeks. Well, with models, what we can do is we can take that sketch, that drawing, that footprint, the perimeter, the number of stories, so on and so forth. And based upon that limited information, we can build an entire estimate. So let's take a look at this. And when you look at this database here, it is based upon means. We have multiple different types of databases. We've got database developers that we can look at, but this is a means database that we utilize. We also integrate with the BNI database as well, just so you're aware of that. But in this situation here is we want to do a takeoff of this parking structure right here. Got a nice little picture right there, but here's the overlying details that we need to fill in. These 8 questions right here. So what's the footprint? What's the perimeter? So think about questions that you would prompt at a high level for a customer that can help you generate an estimate. And in this case here, that what's the depth of excavation, so on and so forth. Well, with that being said, I won't go into filling out that information. I'll just leave it the way it is. Excuse me. Come over here and you'll see the green light. That's always good. Green is always good. Red's not good with this because that means there's something that's not correct for it, and we can generate this. So in this situation right here, it's gone through multiple assemblies, multiple items. So when you think about our solution, an assembly is multiple items working together. A model is multiple assemblies and items working together. So giving you the power to generate this information, this detail very quickly. Now, you may not go to this much detail. It may be represented in a different manner. And by the way, the naming conventions of the means databases, we're going with their structure right there. But when we jump over here, we can go to the totals page and we can see all of that broken out by labor, material, subcontract. Again, This may not represent the way that you would have it broken out, but just giving you kind of an idea, 25 million, 28 million that we have right there, allocating our add-ons. If we need to make a change to our markups, we most definitely can do that, 20%, so on and so forth. One last thing I'll show you, if we're in the negotiation and we're working with customers, we have that relationship. Well, if we go to that process and we say, hey, if we drop this into 29 million, it's a difference of 716. We can just go ahead, right click, and spread that variance if we want to. Well, I'll actually get into the variance here. Here we go. Spread the variance over the total, or we can decide where we want to apply that variance. But very quickly be able to make that adjustment if we wanted to, and we're in the negotiation phase of working on this project. Last but not least, I'll throw something at you, and this is specific to means, is if I wanted to adjust this by what we call a factor table, and you can build your own factor tables, build your own lists, totally up to you on how you want to modify these. Of course, means has 700 cities across the US and Canada. I could just double click and say, Lethbridge, I want to price this out for Lethbridge with the double click, and we're ready to go. So very powerful as far as the model estimating functionality is within the system. So I've gone through a lot of stuff today. I've covered a lot of area, and for the most part, in every application, I've just scratched the surface, but giving you the integration points that you can take advantage of. But each one of these solutions have a feature set that you can take advantage of. Very robust, very feature rich, and something that will streamline those processes within your organization. So with that being said, I'm going to jump back over here to my PowerPoint, and I'm going to put it up there and leave that up there. Michael Fiducia, if you have any questions or need to schedule a presentation specific to your company, we can get that done. So I'm throwing his information up there so that you have that. And then I'll ask Krista at this point if there's any questions. Anybody have any questions during what we did in the presentation?
We do have a few questions. The first question is, are there pre-built databases that we can purchase?
So when you look at that, and you look at the databases that, the old database that I was working with today, the quick answer to that is yes. We have means databases, we have a BNI database that you can take advantage of, and we have multiple database developers out there that have created databases specifically for almost every division, every vertical that you can think of. Now, the one thing that I'll also throw out there is you notice that there was integration, of course, with our eTakeoff, our digital takeoff solution. A lot of our database developers have built that into their process where that integration is already built for you. So it's almost to the point where it is, I'm not going to say a plug and play, but we want to give you the opportunity to get to that ROI that we promise you as quickly as possible.
Okay, the next question is, our company does a lot of manual counting of symbols on plans. How does the Takeoff system handle that process?
Great question. So that's one of those things that I didn't really touch on that we can take a look at. So when you look at the system here and those symbols that you see on the plans, and I'll just walk you through one really quick, is if we wanted to go out and find all of the 9s or the 10s or whatever this represents, these risers right here, we could do that. But with this, what we want to do is give you the capability to have a solution that's going to automate as much as possible. So with that being said, we have the capability to go out, search, and find every object that we're looking for. Now, in this case, these are risers. and we can say this is a riser right here. Go find all of those risers for me on the plan. The key thing to this is that the solution does all of that counting or that finding in the background. So it's not taking up the focus of the application, right? So I can still continue doing my takeoff as we go through the process. But in this case right here, it'll go out and find all of those objects that we're looking for. We can mark off the ones that don't look right. We can review these on the drawing as well. So if I want to see what it's found, what it's saying it's found, well, that one doesn't look correct. So looks good. We can purge those on selected ones and say save. So now it's just gone through the process of counting all of those items right there for us very quickly. But what we want to do is even take it to the next extent here. And I'm going to look at something real quick, if you don't mind me doing so. And let's say, okay, I figured, you know, it wasn't showing those. By the way, we have layering, if you didn't know that. And in this case right here, it's counting all of those items and marking those for us. I just didn't have the layer on to show it. Now with this, what we're going to do is take it a step further. Let's increase your power of doing takeoff and count multiple floors at one time. Search. It's going to go out and count those floors and find those items on as many, well, let me put it this way. We can count as many pages as your computer will allow, as many cores as your computer has. If you have 8, we'll use 7, and you can do takeoff with the other core. So great question. And that is definitely one of the nice features of the solution is have the solution do the automatic find of those items, do the heavy lifting for you, and basically do a count. Great question.
Okay, it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. Someone is interested in us to contact them with pricing and implementation. We certainly can do that. We will be following up with everybody after the webinar. So we'll be happy to reach out to you and discuss more information. So thank you, Darren, for today's presentation. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Again, we will be emailing out the presentation to everybody with full contact information. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to reply to that email and reach out. Thank you all. Stay safe and have a great day.